It's 11:45 p.m., and your phone buzzes on the nightstand. You're exhausted. Your eyes are stinging from the day's blue light, but you see that specific name on the screen, and your heart immediately shifts into save mode. You aren't thinking about your early meeting tomorrow or the fact that you haven't eaten a real meal today. You're already drafting the perfect, soothing response. You feel that heavy, familiar pull in your chest, the one that says their crisis is your responsibility. Why does your own peace always feel like a secondary priority? Here's what nobody tells you. Being the person who carries everyone else isn't just a sign that you're the nice one or a natural empath. Here's what's actually happening. You are operating out of a mechanism called compulsive caretaking. This isn't a personality trait you were born with, or it is a survival strategy you perfected. Your brain has decided that your safety in any room is directly tied to the emotional stability of everyone else in it. You are working an unpaid second shift as a human shock absorber because your nervous system is terrified of what happens when the people around you are in pain. You aren't just helping, you're trying to prevent a storm you think is your fault. To understand why your brain does this, we have to look at the first revelation, a concept called emotional contagion. Dr. Elaine Hatfield at the University of Hawaii has spent decades researching how we catch the feelings of those around us like a virus. For the friend who carries everyone, your emotional immune system is almost non-existent. When a friend is anxious, your brain's mirror neurons, the cells that allow us to empathize, fire so intensely that your body literally begins to mirror their stress. You feel their racing heart and their tight throat as if they were your own. Think of yourself as a human tuning fork. If someone walks into the room and strikes a low, discordant note of sadness, you can't help but vibrate at that same painful frequency. You fix them, not just because you're kind, but because you desperately need the vibration in your own body to stop. Then there is the mechanism of the fawn response, a term popularized by therapist and researcher Pete Walker. We've all heard of fight or flight, but fawning is the fourth, quieter survival move. It is the instinct to appease, please, and anticipate the needs of a potential threat, even if that threat is just someone you love being in a bad mood. If you grew up in an environment that was unpredictable or emotionally high stakes, your brain learned that being useful was the only way to be safe. You became a high-tech emotional smoke detector, scanning for the tiniest change in someone's tone of voice before they even realized they were upset. It's like being a bomb technician who never gets to take off the heavy suit. You are constantly disarming other people's triggers so that you don't have to deal with the fallout of their explosion. We also have to look at the concept of parentification, which Dr. Gregory Yurkovich has explored as a form of hidden childhood trauma. This happens when the traditional roles in a family are flipped, and a child is forced to become the emotional caretaker for their parents. Maybe you were the one who listened to your mom's problems with your dad, or the one who made sure your siblings were fed because the adults were too depressed to get out of bed. You were drafted into a management position before you even learned long division. As an adult, this means your default mode network and the part of the brain active when you're resting is actually hijacked by social monitoring. You don't know how to just be. You only know how to be for others. It's like a computer running a heavy antivirus program in the background. It works, but it's always overheating and the battery is constantly drained. Another piece of this puzzle is the overfunctioner dynamic, which is a core part of Bowen family systems theory. Dr. Harriet Lerner has written extensively about how, in any relationship, if one person underfunctions by being messy or irresponsible, someone else will instinctively step up to overfunction. You are the one who organizes the group chat, remembers the birthdays, and handles the logistics of the breakup you aren't even in. You do this because the alternative, letting things get messy or quiet, is intolerable to your nervous system. You are the person who holds the umbrella over everyone else while you're standing in the pouring rain. It feels like strength, doesn't it? But really, it's a form of chronic anxiety that has masqueraded as competence for so long that you've forgotten who you are without a problem to solve. Notice how this manifests in your adult life when you're out on a first date or starting a new job. Think about the last time you met someone new and within 20 minutes you were helping them process their relationship with their distant father. This is why you are a magnet for projects, people who have a lot of potential, but very little emotional stability. You don't look for partners, you look for clients. You feel a strange, hollow sense of boredom when you meet someone who is actually healthy and consistent. To your brain, healthy feels like not needing me. And if they don't need you, your brain doesn't know why you're there. You've been trained to pay an existence tax. You feel like you have to provide a service just to earn your spot in the room. This shows up at work in the way you never say no to an extra task, even when you're already drowning. You are the reliable one, the one who stays late because you can't stand the thought of a colleague being stressed, even if that colleague is the one who didn't do their work. Notice how you feel a sharp spike of guilt when you take a sick day. You aren't worried about the work. You're worried about the feelings of the people who have to cover for you. You are constantly apologizing for having basic human needs. This is the childhood pattern still running in the way you handle your finances, your health, and your time. You're the last one to eat at the party because you were too busy making sure everyone else had a plate. You're starving, but you're fine. You're always fine. Think about the last time you had a truly bad day. Did you tell anyone? Or did you wait until you had processed it enough so that you could present it as a funny story or a lesson learned? This is the uncomfortably accurate truth of the therapist friend. You don't allow yourself to be a burden. You've convinced yourself that your friends wouldn't know what to do with your mess, so you keep it tucked away in a junk drawer in your mind. This is why you feel so incredibly lonely, even when you're surrounded by people who love you. They love the version of you that helps them, but do they actually love the version of you that needs help? You're terrified that if you stopped being a savior, you'd become invisible. There is a shadow side to this level of caretaking that we have to be honest about. When you spend all your time carrying other people's emotions, and that you're actually taking away their opportunity to grow. By always being the safety net, you are teaching the people in your life that they don't have to learn how to fall. This is where the trait becomes harmful, not just for you, but for them. It can start to feel like a form of control. If you are always the strong one, you are subtly keeping the people around you in a state of perpetual weakness. There is a very thin line between being a supportive friend and being an emotional martyr who uses other people's crises to stay distracted from their own empty house. The real shift happens when you realize that you were never meant to be a bridge for everyone else to walk across. A bridge is a stationary object. It doesn't have its own destination. It just exists to facilitate someone else's journey. You have to learn that you are allowed to be the traveler too. You have to teach your nervous system that a quiet room isn't a sign of failure, and that someone being upset isn't an emergency you have to solve. Think of yourself not as a fixer, but as a person who is finally learning how to put the weight down. It's okay to be useless for a while. One day, you'll realize that the people who truly care about you don't actually want a therapist. They want a friend. They want to see your jagged edges and your messy middle. They want to be the one who brings you the soup for a change. Imagine your heart as a garden, not a hospital. You've spent so much time tending to everyone else's weeds that your own soil has gone dry. It's time to turn the hose back on yourself. What is the one thing you've been carrying for a friend that actually belongs to them? Let's talk about the specific moments where we realized we were over-functioning in the comments, because naming the role is the first step to quitting the job. Next, we're going to talk about the psychology of the scapegoat and why being the problem child was actually the only way you could stay sane in a house that was pretending to be perfect.